welcome once again. It's the first week of February now, and quite understandably after last week's results, I'm currently sat back down in the exact same spot again. I'm up in the car at the moment, as you can probably see, ready to stick another film on in a bit, and get up early in the morning for, fingers crossed, a few more pike. I did have a session over the weekend. After work on Saturday, I headed out with Josh and George from the Fen Carpers out on one of the other Fen Drains. We were hoping for a few zander through the night and then a few pike the following day. Unfortunately, the zander didn't play ball, but we did have 8 pike between us. Nothing overly large, just to about 13 pound. I think was the big. I'm sure it was 13.8 was the biggest one. Yeah, Josh and George hadn't done they hadn't really done any dead baiting, to be fair. Josh came with me a couple of weeks ago as well, but it was George's first time he'd been out with dead baits, so they had a good time. They had a couple of low doubles each, and yeah, it was good. Hopefully next time we manage to get out, at least one of them will get something a little bit bigger again. But I do think they've got the bug a little bit for it now. So yeah, as I say, I'm currently up in the car, waiting rather impatiently for morning so I can get the rods out in the water. I did half think about putting them out for a few hours this evening before I went to bed, but it's rather blowy out there, and the banks are pretty treacherous during the day, in all fairness, so I didn't fancy going up and down them in a rush by myself in the dark. Because I wouldn't suggest that for anybody, to be fair. So it'll have to be morning. I'll have to keep myself patient, but it shouldn't be too long. Like I say, I'm going to get a film on now, just relax for a little bit, get my head down in a bit, and I'm sure 6 o'clock will be here before I know it. Small one to get off the mark this week. Probably goes about £8 or so, I should imagine. Nice start. Get this one back, get that rod back in the water, and yeah, hopefully there'll be a few more, a little bit bigger to follow. Well, just had that first one. Rather typically it was just as I'd opened my bag of crisps to have a quick snack this morning. It had been pretty quiet since I got the rods out, about, I don't know, 7:30, 7 time. So yeah, I thought I'd have a little snack, and as always with fishing, that's when it went off. But I've got the rods back in the water now. Still got a fair few hours left before I've got to go and pick the little one up, so fingers crossed there'll be something a little bit bigger come along sometime soon. So I'm going to go finish my crisps and hope that I can get to the bottom of the bag before one of the others goes off. Well, I've just had a bit of a recast. It's been a very quiet morning since that one earlier on. In complete contrast to last week, where I seem to be flying about all over the place. I found myself pretty much sat on my hands most of the time this week. Yeah, like I say, I've just had a recast, and I've got about an hour left before I've got to reel in. So you never know. While there's bait in the water, there's always a chance. But I've just not seen a lot of movement this week. I mean, it's been difficult too with the chop on the water with this wind we've got. But last week I was seeing pike striking everywhere on the surface. So all I can think is, well, I don't know. Either the bait fish have moved on and the pike have followed them, or perhaps they're just not feeding today. I really don't know, but we'll see how the next hour goes, and if you don't see me again, then I'll see you next week. go. Just had another one, no more than probably 2 or 3 minutes after I just got off the camera there. Just about sat down, I was just replying to a message. I had a single bleep, and then the hanger slowly picked up and resulted in this one. Probably might just scrape into low doubles this one, it's quite a chunky little thing. I'm going to get her back, get another smelt on the rod, and fingers crossed we might nick one more before we go. Right, it's Tuesday the 11th of February now, a couple of days after old Storm Ciara hit. It was a bit mad over the weekend, as I'm sure most of the country will know about. The amount of wind and rain, and we even had some hail and snow yesterday as well. It's not done the conditions of the drain any favours at all. But I've got the rods in the water, you never know. As long as there's a bait out there, there's always a chance. But it is very, very coloured, and it's pushing through rather rapidly as well, so we shall see. But as I'm predicting a likely blank on this session, I thought I'd take you through a few of the bits that I did earlier on in the winter with my predator fishing. Around October time I was fishing a little dating lake for the carp. And the last session I spent down there, I think I mentioned at the start of this diary piece, I actually lost a carp in the night, about an hour after being there. The next morning I woke up and it was very, very cold. It dropped quite a bit during the night, so I had the little lure rods in the car. Me and Adam had been in town just with the light lures after some perch, and we ended up actually having a load of little zander. I had 15, and Adam I think had 7 or 8 as well, plus the obligatory perch. There's always plenty of those in there. But it was a great session. It was absolutely chucking it down with rain whilst we were there, but yeah, it was good fun. And that was topped off by this one of, well, it was probably about 3.5 pound or so, I suppose. So yeah, not massive by any means, but great fun on a little 2 to 8 gram ultralight lure rod. So yeah, I still had the rods in the car from that, and after doing 3 or 4 laps of the lake after looking for the carp, couldn't see anything anywhere, so I thought, well, I'll bring the carp rods in and get the lure rods out of the car again. I knew there was a few pike in this lake, and I'd heard there'd been a few perch in there as well. There was also the river over the back. So I got the little lure rods out, like I say. Had a little lemon tiger 6cm spiky shad on. And first cast out in the river I had a little jack, no more than a couple of pound I should imagine. But it was nice to get a fish. And after a few more casts over there I decided to have a go in the lake. I had 2 or 3 jacks out of there up to about 4 pound. And there's a lot of silkweed in the lake as well, so it made working the jigs close to the bottom quite difficult. I was quite often getting caught up in the silkweed and everything that was down there. And I was fishing around the middle of the lake, just bringing it along the bottom of this ledge that I knew was there. And everything went solid, and I thought, oh, I've got weeded up again. And I started sort of putting a bit of a bend in the rod, and it was slowly feeling like it was pulling free. And then the line started casting out to the left. So obviously wasn't the weed I thought it was. I had this fish on for probably about 5 or 6 minutes. It powered round to the left, and then it come out in front of me, and so after a few minutes it hit the surface, and it was a pike that if it wasn't 20 pound, it wasn't far off. Considering it was on a little 2 to 8 gram rod, it was a bit of a crazy fight, to be honest, but unfortunately it bent out my jig head hook, and that was that. So I think it was either a week or two later. I was out actually on this spot on the drains, again fishing for the perch and everything. And I had a couple of nice perch. One was probably around the £2 mark, and I'd also been bitten off by a couple of pike here as well. And then I hooked one. Again, it was absolutely chucking it down with rain at the time. And another guy was fishing the other side of the bridge called Tom Moore, and thankfully he came through and gave me a bit of a hand because I was slipping and sliding everywhere. So this little 2 to 8 gram lure rod was absolutely bent double as his pike made off down the margin. And again, after about 5 or 6 minutes, I managed to get its head up, and Tom got it in the net at the first time of asking. I didn't weigh it, I probably should have done, to be fair, but it was a good mid to high double, I reckon. I say, on that ultralight gear, it was great fun. The following week, was it the following week? Yeah, I think it was the following weekend. Me and Adam had a bit of a journey round the fens, fishing a few different spots. We went over to Whittlesea area first, and I think it was on the fifth cast. I had a perch of 114, and Adam had one pretty much straight after that at probably just over £1, £1.25, something like that. We had plenty of more smaller ones down there. We then headed a bit further upstream, fished all the way along, but didn't make any contact with anything any size after those first two. So we decided we'd head off over to Benwick, but unfortunately that was absolutely stuffed full of match anglers, and there was 3 or 4 pike anglers in between the 2 bridges in the middle of the village there as well. So we didn't even bother getting out the car there. We just carried on over to Outwell. Outwell, there was a few small perch again, nothing overly exciting, so we didn't hang about for long. We came back around Marchtown itself, had a few pike and zander out of the middle of town again, and I had a half decent perch up on the 20 foot, which might have scraped £1 if I'm lucky. And yeah, that pretty much brought us up to date with the diaries where I'd started it the other week. So I'm down here at the moment, hoping to get something. So I'm not overly confident. I'm due to head out with Josh again at the weekend as well, but there's a lot more rain forecast to be coming in then, so we'll have to wait and see on that one, see what we fancy and what we think closer to the time. But I'm going to get myself back up and get my hands in my pockets, because it is blooming freezing down here. We've still got 50-mile-an-hour winds forecast for sort of midday today, so I'm probably going to get the brunt of that whilst I'm packing away later on. Yeah, we'll keep everything crossed. I'll catch up with you a bit, hopefully with a fish. If not, then yeah, we'll just have to keep plugging away, and fingers crossed something will happen before we have to head for the school pickup again. Speak to you soon. Well, here we go. Wasn't expecting one of these today, but I saw a couple of big swirls down by one of the posts on the bridge, so I reeled my left hand rod in, just underarmed it down right in between where I'd seen them both, and this one went off 2 minutes afterwards, something like that. So always pays to keep your eye on the water when you're pike fishing. It's not just a carp fishing thing. You know, you see these things move, it shows they're feeding and active. And yeah, turn what was likely to be a blank session into a good one. 18-pound one this has gone. Rather lively, like you see. Probably in full-on hunting mode, I should imagine, when she took my dead bait. So I'm going to get a couple of pictures quickly and stick it back. So I just thought I'd show you the tiny bit of change that made all the difference for catching that pike. Now, I've been fishing with the bait down here pretty much all morning, so for about 2.5 hours or so. I then saw a pike show just off of this pillar here, and then about 2 minutes later it showed in the middle under the bridge about here. So I've come down, recast the rod, just sort of plonked it down in between the two, down around here. It was in the water no more than a minute or two, and it picked up, pulled the line out of the clip, and that's what resulted in that 18-1 that you saw a second ago. Tiny little difference, but can make a massive change to your results. Right, I just got back up to the top of the bank after filming that little bit about moving the rod there, and then my middle rod had a couple of beeps, hanger picked up, came out the clip, and this one was the guilty party. A little jack, probably about 8 pound or so. Gave a good account of itself, to be fair. So I'm well made up now. 2 fish within about 10 minutes, and still time for more. So I'll get her back, get this rod recast, and then hopefully have a sit down. So it looks like it's about it for this week. I have still got about 20 minutes left before I've got to start packing away and get off to pick the little one up. I have just had a quick recast as well. You never know. Dropping the bait onto a new spot might just bring a quick bite. But if not, then it looks like I finished with just those two, that 18-1 and that other one that was probably about 10 pound or so smaller. So considering the conditions, I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. So I started the day thinking that I'd be lucky to get anything at all, so to get 2, I'm quite happy with that. So yeah, I guess all that's left to do now is have a sit down for 15-20 minutes or so, warm my hands up a little bit, and then start packing away. And then it will be a matter of getting all the gear sorted for the session with Josh at the weekend. I have just seen, however, on the weather there's supposed to be another storm coming through. Storm Dennis, I think they've called this one. Fingers crossed it won't be quite as wild as this last one has been, but it's still not looking too great. 40-50 mile an hour winds. It looks like a bit more rain this time as well than that last storm, so we'll see. We'll probably get down here anyway, just in case. As I said earlier, there's always a chance with a bait in the water. So yeah, I'll wrap it up there. And if there's no surprise last minute fish, then I shall see you Saturday evening.